Hey everybody, it's Nick, and in this video I'm going to take a departure from my usual make.com stuff and talk a little bit about YouTube. Specifically, how I hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube in a little over 2.5 months using a pretty unconventional strategy that I don't think a lot of people on YouTube are using. So if you've wondered about potentially getting started on YouTube, which I would highly recommend you to, by the way, or just want some more insight into the sorts of things that I'm seeing on a daily basis when I make my YouTube videos, maybe the revenues, maybe the analytics, that sort of deal, then this is the video for you. Stay tuned and let's get into it. So I got a couple things that I want to talk about in this video, loosely structured. This video is going to involve 3 parts. The first is I'm going to talk about what you can expect at around 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And what I mean what you can expect, I mean what sorts of revenue are you looking at in terms of AdSense? What sorts of numbers are you looking at in terms of, I don't know, comments, analytics, that sort of deal. Obviously, some of this varies depending on the niche and on the channel. Obviously, CPMs are very different across industry, so keep some of that in mind, but I'll show you guys what it's like on my end. Number 2 is how to get there. It's a simple 3-step strategy for producing large amounts of content quickly, and then ensuring that that content is relevant to your audience and then grows increasingly relevant, which I personally feel is crucial on YouTube in order to make a really good impression and obviously to grow your brand. I'm going to include some thoughts of my own just in terms of, the mindset that I have behind starting YouTube, why I think my YouTube has grown so much faster than most other people's that started around the same time as me. And ways that you can implement that same mindset on your end in order to achieve a similar result if you wanted to get on YouTube and that sort of deal. And then the final part of the video is going to be just some ideas that I'm having related to monetizing my own audience and ways that you, when you're at this level, can consider moving forward, I guess, on a personal brand perspective to both make large amounts of money online, obviously, but also to provide a ton of value to people that are watching. I firmly believe that anybody at the around 10,000 subscriber mark on YouTube can make more than $1 million a year if they do it right. They just need to do it right. And they obviously need to not sacrifice the brand reputation that they've built by doing it in a really shitty way. So I got some thoughts on that. I'm going to talk about all these 3 things. Let's get into it. First thing that I want to touch on, obviously, is my own YouTube growth, what that's looked like. I made a video similar to this, I think, when I was at like 3,000 subscribers or something. Which now that I think about it was like maybe a month and a half ago. So things have changed quite quickly. But I just want to revisit some of the same things that I talked about there. Obviously, I have 10,687 subscribers as of today. I believe yesterday I had like 10,500 or something. So it's been growing between 100 to maybe 200 a day. Seems to fluctuate depending on the content volume that I'm putting out. You'll see that I have 90,000 views in the last 28 days. So a little over 3,000 views a day, which is quite nice. And then that translates to 9,000 watch hours, which I personally think is cool as hell. I have an estimated revenue of about $1,277.84, which is basically exactly my mortgage, which I find really funny. And I've repeated this a couple of times because it's interesting how, you just start recording videos and you don't really think too much about it. And then, within a couple of months, your mortgage is paid for. So I don't consider this a very large sum, but I think this sum would make a difference to a lot of people's lives. And it's worth at least mentioning. Now, let's actually head over to the analytics page and let's see what sorts of numbers we're running. So reiterating a couple of these stats, obviously 90,000 views in the last 28 days, 9K watch hours, 2.8K subs, and then estimated revenue. I want to touch on views a little bit because if you guys have been following my channel for more than the last 28 days, you'll know that my channel's gone through some pretty large fluctuations in viewership and subscriber count and that sort of thing. And there are periods upon which it grows very, very quickly. And then there are periods in which it's grown a little bit slower. And so if I just walk you through the last 90 days here, I believe I started posting consistently on February the 6th. Yeah, there it is. February the 6th with my first video that said I made $48,164 last month. Here's how. Interestingly enough, I didn't really know, I didn't have a content strategy back then at all. And so all I was doing was thinking, okay, what's impressive about my life that other people might find interesting? I'd list out 5 or 10 different things and then I just talk about it. My idea there was just to get as much feedback as quickly as possible and see if this sort of thing really was as interesting as I thought it was. And interestingly, it turns out that it wasn't. Videos in which I talk about, obviously, the amount of money that I make are valuable to some people. They do find it very valuable, and I see why. It's, a measure of legitimacy and that sort of deal. But actually, systems slash automation talk tend to do substantially better. Talking about the systems and the automation and how they make money is way more important to people than just making money. And I have a strong feeling that that's because there's just so many more people talking about all the money that they've made online, but very few people talking about how they made the money that they made online. So important little distinction there. Anyway, I started posting consistently on February the 6th, I guess, looking back here. And then you'll notice that for the first few days, I got basically no views. I got like 100 views across all of the content that I was posting. And then all of a sudden, at around February the 15th or so, I started taking off. And when I say take off, I mean, I was at like 100 to 150 here. Let's just say 150 for brevity. And then within, 3 days, I was all of a sudden at 2100, which my math ain't so good, but I believe it's about 15 times, 14 times higher. Immediately after, I wasn't just 14 times higher, I was like 35 times higher or something, 38 times higher. And then I ended up peaking at, 7,598, which was 50 times more views than I was getting just a week and a half before then. So 50x is a very, very large difference. And immediately I noticed a lot of changes happening in my channel right around this time. Number one was obviously views and subscribers are heavily correlated. So I was getting substantially more subscribers right around this time, which is pretty cool. I jumped from getting like 4 or 5, maybe 6 a day to, 360 a day. If you consider the 50x multiple on the views, then 50x multiple on 6 to 360 makes sense, right? It's approximately similar. I was starting to get a lot of requests from people on videos, which I found very valuable. And this is really, to me, I mean, even though, as you see, there are 2 big spikes here and then it sort of levels off, this is really, to me, when things started like taking off. I only had like 1,000 subscribers around that time, but now that I had a sufficient mass of people that were viewing my stuff, I had a sufficient mass of people providing me feedback and telling me, hey, Nick, I really like that you talk about this. Can you talk about this topic more? Or, hey, do you mind recording a video on this, right? And by doing so, I was able to basically channel what I was doing before, which if you think about it sort of like conceptually, I was like in the middle of a big space and I was reaching in as many directions as possible. I would take 2 steps to the right, then I would take 2 steps to the left, and then 1 step up and then 1 step down. I was doing all these random actions. I was moving a lot, but I wasn't actually making a lot of progress in a particular direction. But the second that I started receiving regular and consistent feedback from the people that were watching my stuff, right? The second I hit that critical mass, I started actually being able to like tend towards a direction, aka a goal, aka like a personal brand essentially. And that's when not only did I remain super consistent, I like to think so anyway, but my content quality shot way up, and then the value that people were getting was also going way up. And then the conversations that I was having when people were booking meetings with me and that sort of thing, they were so fantastic. I was getting tons of inquiries for very, very big projects, like government projects, municipal projects, projects with private equity firms, right? Just the quality of the conversations that I was having right after this point went way the hell up. So even though, the view count dipped, subscriber count dipped, all that stuff, I just kept on going, and I sort of attacked it with renewed vigor. I hit a second spike about a month after I started posting, it'd be 3.5 weeks after I started posting consistently. The second spike was much higher than the first spike, about like 1.8 times higher. And I just consider this like delayed results after, consistently hitting the type of content that I wanted to hit for, 2 weeks prior to that, after getting all that feedback. And so I'm not surprised that I hit a higher peak. And then after that, I tended down, and, I seem to be, hovering somewhere around the 3,500 to 5,000 views a day sort of deal. My subscriber count, in terms of the peaks, I shot all the way up to, I think, 522 in a day, which is pretty cool. I think I woke up that day and I was at 2,000, and then later on in the night, 3,000 maybe. And then later on in the night, I was at like 3,500 or 4,000, which is obviously quite fun to be in that driver's seat. And then since then, it seems to be hovering somewhere around like 100 to 150 a day. Sometimes I have spikes and it's a little bit higher, but yeah, it seems to be right around there. Now you'll notice that these little gray bubbles, they stop right around, March the 15th, March the 19th, I guess. And that's because I was doing a 30-day content challenge up until that point in time. And then I did a couple more posts, but I also ended up getting a pretty large business opportunity, which involved me flying to Prague, or the Czech Republic, if you guys are familiar, to do a business turnaround for a company that I liked and respected a lot. And that was pretty time intensive, as you can imagine. As a result of that, I was unable to continue the constant posting obligations that I'd grown accustomed to, and that I think a lot of my audience had grown accustomed to. So immediately after, I guess like 3 or 4 days after I stopped posting consistently, I saw a marked decrease in subscriber count every day. And, we went down from like 130 or so a day down to like 60, 70, that sort of deal. And I think the reason for that is just because, one, the YouTube algorithm obviously really likes when you post consistently, especially the long form stuff that I'm posting, because it accrues a lot of watch time, accrues a lot of watch hours. And I think YouTube is really trying to push long form content a lot harder because there's just such a surplus of short form stuff. Two, I think people are just more interested in long form stuff, at least the people that I'm talking to right now, my audience. And so talking long form and that sort of thing, that everybody just grew sort of accustomed to having a video every day. Maybe they'd watch it while they ate lunch or something like that. As I know, I've been known to do from time to time. So yeah, when I stopped posting, I think I saw a pretty substantial decrease in subscriber count. And then when I was in Prague, I was like, hey, I've got to find a way to make this work. So I posted a couple of videos, and then the second that I posted those videos, my viewer count shot up again, my subscriber count shot up again. And then it just tended somewhere around like the 100 range every single day, basically from then onwards, which is quite nice. So yeah, that was pretty exciting, obviously. That persisted until about April the 20th or so, when I got back from my operations consulting project, you can call it. And then right around that time, I got extremely sick for 4 or 5 days. So I didn't post at all. And then now I'm back and I've started posting it consistently again. YouTube is sort of delayed with this stuff, so it doesn't actually show you the stats for today. And so it says that I have 2 videos posted, but I really posted another one. I wonder if I could include today. Yeah, I don't think that there's a way I can automatically do so. So I'd have to just like set this custom to include May the 4th. Yeah, and I can't really do that, unfortunately, but I anticipate that my subscriber count in the last 48 hours is probably like a time and a half as high as these, just because I'm, posting consistently again. I think it's like the 3rd day in a row or something along those lines, maybe like the 3rd time in 2 days or something. So that's quite positive. And watch time, views, they sort of mirror the same thing. There's no real interesting, patterns there that differ. What I'll do now is I'll talk a little bit about the estimated revenue and sort of like the level of, AdSense rev that you can expect at around 10,000 followers. Obviously, this depends on how engaged your audience is. I'd consider the people that watch my videos very engaged because, I drop nuggets all the time, I like to think. And, it's sort of like a live build. And so, you sort of have to be engaged if you want to get value out of it. Contrast that with some other stuff, which I think a lot of people just put on in the background or something. I think it's quite different. You have to sort of like use your eyes, use your ears. You have to like be fully cognitively present. So, let me just run you through what that looks like. So I got monetized in, I think, late February. Let me try pumping this in and seeing what happens. 3/1, let's see, 2024. Yeah, so very late February. And then I got $104 in the month of February. And then in March, I got $1,421.27. And you'll see that right around that time when like the mass of videos was the highest is when I received the most money from AdSense, obviously. A couple of my videos went viral around this time, particularly how to scrape a website on Make. People really, really like that one because I think it's just like a new approach to web scraping. They didn't really realize that they could do it in Make and that sort of thing. So, a lot of my revenue was coming around that time, obviously. And it looks to me like since then, the first half of the month, it's probably about 1.5 times the money the second half of the month generated. I could run the numbers, but I'm not really going to. But anywho, you can really see the impact when you stop posting consistently, right? Like when I was posting consistently, I was averaging about $70 a day, I would say. And then when I stopped posting consistently, the second that I missed a day and that sort of thing, it's down to about 40, 30, 35, 40, that sort of thing. So, that was back in March, I should say. Since then, April was pretty good. It seemed to hover around $35 to $40 a day. Note that I posted like twice, once at the very beginning of the month and then once at the very, very end of the month. So with those 2 posts sort of at the beginning and at the end, I really feel like YouTube is like a flywheel and you just need to be posting reasonably consistently in order to see results with this. Obviously, you have to make sure your content's pretty high quality, but yeah, that's more or less where I'm at, $40-ish a day in the month of April. And then the month of May, let's see where we're at. 64, 54, and then 49, so about 50. So I'm averaging maybe $55 in May. So yeah, it's definitely going up. It's probably going to continue to trend up. And I imagine this month I'm probably going to make somewhere around $2,000 a month US, considering I'm posting consistently. Let's see, I'm Canadian, so it's at $2,700 Canadian, which, is pretty good money. But the revenue only tells half the story. because it's not just the revenue that I'm making off of AdSense. If you consider like the YouTube stuff like a business, in addition to the revenue that I'm producing through AdSense, I'm also producing revenue through affiliates, and then I'm also producing revenue through closed deals. Like I'm still selling my products as a service. No, I'm selling my consulting, but I'm also selling my building and my integrating time. And so I've closed several deals as a result of working on this YouTube project that I otherwise wouldn't have. So, you have to factor that revenue in as well. The deals that I'm getting from YouTube are substantially bigger than deals that I was getting previously with cold outreach. Like the deals when I was doing cold outreach were maybe average of like $3,000 to $4,000. The deals that I'm getting when I'm doing YouTube are on average maybe $7,000, $8,000. There's a retainer aspect, and it's hard for me to see just how much better the churn rate is from YouTube than it was on cold outreach. So, I've only really had a couple of these deals for like a month now. And since they're on a recurring basis, I don't really know how long they're going to last. But my intuition is they're probably going to last like 5 or 6 times longer than the cold outreach ones, because one, if they came into my funnel, you could say, through YouTube, odds are they really like and respect the content that I'm putting out. Otherwise, that wouldn't have been like the main way that I acquired them. And so me constantly producing more and more and more value probably makes me appear like more of an authority in their eyes, for one. Probably makes me seem like I know what I'm doing more, for two. There's a positive brand association. Like a lot of the time people want to work with people that, are more famous or more popular. And so you need to consider, a good example of this is a company that I'm working with has a Taylor Swift's copywriter. And Taylor Swift's copywriter, like when you just hear that, you're like, damn, that's Taylor Swift's copywriter for real? It's like, yeah, we got Taylor Swift's copywriter. You're so much more likely to want to work with a business if you have somebody that has some level of notoriety. Now, I'm not T Swift yet. I just got to dye my hair and do a couple other things to my body. But, I think probably within the next 3 to 4 months, I'll become one of the most reputable, if not well-recognized people in this space. And I think that, anybody that is learning about the space or in the industry or whatever would want that positive brand association, hence a much lower churn rate. So we'll see how that manifests, but yeah, the deals are at least 2 times larger. And then I think when you take into account the reduced churn, like the lifetime value of a YouTube customer is probably going to be like 6 or 7 times whatever the lifetime value was of my cold outreach customers. Pretty good stuff. In addition to that, I'm also making some affiliate revenue. So I mentioned that in order to be really accurate, we have to take all of that into account. I believe, and this is just off the top of my head because my affiliate revenue is spread across like 7 or 8 platforms. I believe in April 2024, I made an additional $400-ish, maybe $500, somewhere around those lines. They don't all pay out at the same time, which is annoying. When you start YouTube and you start, approaching these companies, or these companies approach you, I should say, pitching their affiliate deals and that sort of thing, you have to be cognizant of the fact that they'll have really weird payment schedules. Some of them are going to pay you at the end of the month. Others are going to pay you every 60 days. Others are going to pay you when their credit amount reaches over $150. And then they'll pay you on the 21st of like the 3rd harvest moon after that, right? There are a lot of variables there. But just looking at like the closed deals from people that are using my links and stuff, it's between $400 to $500, which would put my total revenue just in terms of not in terms of the actual services that I'm providing, for the month of April, closer to $1,700 to $1,800 US, which I think is quite healthy. It's definitely not like a living, but I think that that amount of money would make a big difference to a lot of people's lives, which is pretty crazy to think about. I mean, I'm just here sitting, not in my boxers, not today anyway, but I'm just sitting here in my house talking about things that I really enjoy talking about, and it's allowed me to create a pretty reasonable amount of revenue without even worrying about, the closed deals or anything like that. So pretty exciting stuff. That's why I'd recommend YouTube to basically anybody watching. Okay, so that's analytics. I wanted to talk a little bit about comments because I've had a lot of people ask me what the comments look like. And I've also had some people basically say, ask me, Nick, is this you really replying to my stuff, or is it like an artificial intelligence? It is me. I would never demean the people that are watching by having some AI respond to your comments. I don't think that there's anything morally or inherently wrong with using AI, but my whole point or my whole objective is to be very respected in the industry. And I think that it would just be a very big hit to personal reputation if somebody else were responding to my comments or AI was responding to my comments, that sort of thing. So on the comment side of things, I'm not going to lie, the first 5,000 subscribers or so that I got, I could manage it pretty reasonably. And I would have a schedule where basically every single day After I did like my morning work and, I have a little routine going on where I read a certain amount and I do some flashcards and that sort of thing. At the end of that stretch, I would just go on my YouTube and then I would respond to all the comments received in the last 48 hours. And then I could actually stay on top of it. But I think between the 5,000 and 10,000 mark, my ability to do so has really, really dropped off. And I can't really keep on top of it, because if I spend all my time doing the YouTube comments, I guess like in the last day or so, this doesn't account for the ones that I have responded to. So in the last day or so, I probably received like 40 or something like that. And I really like to provide a lot of detail in the comments, especially when people are asking me questions. So it's just very, very difficult to do so consistently. I'm thinking of making this a bigger priority moving forward, because I think that there's a ton of value in comments. This is what a lot of YouTubers won't tell you, but I think there's a ton of value in responding to comments. One, because every time you do so, it's an opportunity to show all the people that you follow, that are following you rather, that's the sort of person that you are, whether it's a positive or negative comment. Like if it's a positive comment, then that's great. We're keeping the party going, and obviously I'm delivering a fair amount of value, so I enjoy the positive comments. It's nice for my psyche too, because staring at a screen all day can be kind of boring. But two, when it's a negative comment, I think it's a really good opportunity for you to show your character to the people that are watching. A lot of the time people try combating negativity with more negativity. But, in my case, a lot of the time when people are negative, I just try and respond positively, or I try and treat it as a learning experience. I had somebody the other day say something along the lines of, you can't make $20,000 a month on Upwork or something. Like, that's not realistic. But it totally is. My peak month was almost $26,000, I think, or like $25,500. I have like the certificate of earnings. I got everything. So I think I said something to him like, I feel like you have some limiting beliefs. I think you can make that money if you really put your mind to it. And I believe that sort of thing, considering that, the lifetime value of these comments, like these comments are going to be up for like the next 5 or 10 years. I think they're just great ways to build reputation and character and that sort of deal. So a lot of YouTubers are going to disagree with me, but I would respond to every single comment if I had the time to do so. And I will probably go through and try and find a way that I can actually stay on top of things. If that means responding to fewer comments or responding to them like more shorter form, then I probably will. But I just really want to interact with the people that are following me. They're assisting me build my brand. They're just lovely people, honestly. Like all the guys that are watching this at this point are fantastic. And I think that there's a lot of synergistic business opportunities as well. So if I'm thinking about this from the perspective of somebody that only cares about making money on the internet, then responding to people that are watching my content is probably also valuable, just insofar that the people that are watching are probably in my industry, and so they're in some type of business automation or consulting, or they just own businesses. So obviously you want to be in touch with them wherever possible, right? But that's not even accounting for all of the positive relationship benefits that I'm getting. The fact that I've met just so many great, amazing people over the course of the last 2 months. I think I've probably been on over 60, 70 calls, and everybody that I've talked to so far has just left me with a giant smile on my face. So yeah, tons of value in responding to comments, guys. If you start a YouTube channel, I'd make sure that you respond to every single comment yourself for as long as you humanly can. Obviously still do whatever you have to do to put bread on the table, but the comments are just like the icing on the cake. Insane squirrel. That made me crack up. Yeah, I swear a little bit too much on here, but it's funny. Some people say, Nick, like, why do you swear so much? You're so crass. And then other people are like, dude, I love that you swear. So it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to continue being myself and see where that lands. Great. So that's comments. And then if I go down here to earn, so I didn't realize this until I actually got monetized, but there are various ways to monetize your channel in addition to just AdSense. You can monetize through, let me see here, memberships. Yeah. Supers, which I've personally never used in my life, but I think it's sort of like Patreon, where people provide some type of benefit, they donation or something like that when you do a really good job. You can do shopping, and then there's some type of like charity affiliate program here. So I'm not worrying about any of that stuff. I mean, it's possible that maybe that sort of thing could make me a little bit more money, like 10% here, 20% there. But I prefer to keep things as simple as possible for now. And so I'm just doing the watch page ads. And then I guess I'm also doing supers and giving, although I don't think I've ever encouraged somebody to do any of that. And I don't actually remember explicitly selecting that. Maybe that's just what YouTube does automatically. Yeah. So that's about what you can expect when you reach about 10,000 subscribers or so. Assuming that you do a pretty good job, assuming that your CPMs are pretty reasonable, you can probably expect around $1,200, $1,300. some videos are going to perform disproportionately well. Like check out this graph, how to scrape any website in make.com has almost, it's like 3.5 times as much ad revenue as the next video up, right? But that said, content follows an exponential graph, essentially, or like a reverse exponential graph. It's sort of like the 80-20. I think it's called the power law, where 1% of causes result in 99% of effects. And so too does content, right? So do the videos that you record. It's like the 80-20 principle. So yeah, I don't know if you can all expect the $14.22 RPM. I hear that that's pretty high, just based off some research that I've done. But if you do long form content as well, and if you just talk about things that you're passionate about, and you have an audience, I think you'll probably get there at some point. Okay, great. So that's just me nerding out over analytics and giving you guys just a barometer, I want to say, of the sorts of dollar figures, analytics, view count, subscriber count, all that sort of stuff that you can expect at around my level, at least in this industry. And hopefully that'll help anchor you guys to more realistic expectations moving forward, because as I'm sure you guys saw, I didn't really do anything for the first 10 days, and I posted every single day for 10 days, sometimes 30, 40, 50-minute videos. So, keep on grinding and you'll get there. It's a very realistic roadmap, and that was my hope with this video. The second thing that I want to talk about is, okay, great. So now you know what to expect at 10,000 subscribers. How do I actually go out and get there? And I thought, as opposed to giving you guys this, I don't know, I think people are really clickbaity when they go on YouTube and they search up how to get subscribers on YouTube. I've watched some of that content myself, and it just makes me cringe, and I can't really pay attention to it because it cuts every goddamn 2 seconds, and I'm clearly an old man. Get off my YouTube. But I thought I'd just be very straightforward and show you guys how I did this. So essentially, I have what I'd consider a 3-step system for growing on YouTube, and I can only speak for what's worked for me, but this is what has worked for me. And I was very, very intentional about how I set this up, and so I'm not surprised about the results that I was getting, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this before I began. The first thing that you need to do is you need to build your lifestyle in a way that you can produce a lot of high-quality content. And so a lot of people, when they start out on YouTube, they think that they need to gain a ton of willpower, and they need to post every day, no matter how hard it is, for 60 or 90 or 120 days or whatever. And they have to grind and push and just really try as hard as they can. And that's what's going to get them the result, right? The effort that they put in. And I hate to break it to you, but contrary to basically everything that, a lot of people that are starting here have probably heard from other people, it's not the degree of effort that you put in that yields the results. Because if this is really hard for you, then you probably haven't picked the right thing to talk about, and you haven't probably thought about how to arrange your life in such a way that it's easy. And so instead, if you just spend a few hours before you begin your YouTube journey or campaign or whatever you want to call it, and you just try and think, how would I need to structure my life to make it as easy as possible to post every day for the next year? And if you can think about that question earnestly and honestly, and if you can structure your life in such a way that allows you to do so, then you will go way further than all of the people that started around 2.5 to 3 months ago, that are now only at 500 subs. And, I'm at 10,700 or something. So that sounds like a lot, but let me be more clear and more direct. If we were to turn this from this vague thing where it's you structure your life in a way that allows you to produce content and turn it into something that's concrete, what I mean by this is you need to make recording as frictionless as possible and as easy as possible for you. Now, in my case, I'm very good at talking head videos, or at least that's what I hear from people. I explain things reasonably clearly. That's obviously a strength of mine. And I know a lot about automations and make.com. And so I used my knowledge of what I'm good at, and then I created a content format that allowed me to produce content with my points of highest leverage very quickly and very often. And my format for this was, and I wrote this down somewhere. I don't know if I have my notebook, but I explicitly wrote down, long form content, no cuts, do it all in one take, just talk for a long time about stuff, and hopefully people will listen. And, I set up OBS Studio, which is down here at the bottom right-hand corner. And it allows me to just screen share as I talk about stuff, which is why I'm jumping back and forth. And then I just have a little hotkey that allows me to go to my face and then to the screen and then back to my face. And doing this allows my content to just be a little bit more engaging or exciting than most other people that are either their face or their screen or whatever. And it also allows me not to have to do any work in post. It allows me not to have to like worry about hiring a big video editing team because I can just, press a couple of buttons and then jump back and forth between these two screens live. And at the end of it, I just have like an MP4, and I can take that MP4 and I can upload it to YouTube. Or if I want to do any, post work, then I just, I drag and drop into Premiere Pro. And then I just have some adjustment layers here. Everything's all templated. It's very easy. So that's one part of it. Obviously, like the logistics of how you structure. Another one is the type of content that you produce. If you want your content to be really, really easy to create, then just make your content about stuff that you would have had to do either way. So one thing that I love doing is I love just making new passion projects on make.com. I do that sort of thing all the time. I literally, if I didn't run a channel, I'd probably still have created exactly as many make.com flows as I've created over the course of the last 30 days. Like the fact that I have a channel hasn't actually changed that. I'm not doing any additional work. All I'm doing is I'm funneling that exact same energy and I'm recording videos on new make.com flows that I'm building. But it's just time that I would have spent anyway building make.com flows just without a camera in front of my face. So if you think about it intelligently, the additional time cost of just slapping the camera, turning it on, and then talking people through what I'm doing, it's quite low. Maybe there's like, if I'm trying to think about this mathematically, it's like there's a 20% premium to having a camera in front of me while I do one of these things. Yeah, if I didn't have the camera in front of me, I would have been able to do it about 20% faster, but I'm willing to spend 20% additional time doing something I would have had to do that day anyway on also building a brand. So that's number 2. Number 3, in order to build your lifestyle in a way that allows you to generate content, at least in my case, I'm doing talking head content, right? And so it's just me talking for the most part, and then I'm sharing my screen and walking through systems and that sort of deal. Well, I want you to think about how much time and energy people spend trying to like come across a certain way on camera. I was faced with essentially being like, the very first video that I recorded, I was like, man, I'm really not like well kept enough. Like I'm not groomed enough. I keep on saying and ah and all these weird filler words that I would rather not say. I look like a total dumbass. And I sort of thought for a second and I said, well, logically, if I spend all this time and effort worrying about how I appear on camera, how I present, or all of that stuff, then that's probably just going to take substantially more time to produce content. So why don't I just not worry about it and just trust that there are somewhere in the, 4 billion internet users or whatever, that there's a group of people that would like me for who I really am as opposed to like who I'm pretending to be on the internet. And then that way the content that I produce takes less time and energy because I'm just myself and I don't worry about, all the minor things that I think a lot of content creators worry about. And then I'll probably look more authentic and then be able to build stronger relationships with people too. So it's a win-win. And so I bring that whole point up because I think a lot of people believe that they need a certain persona on the internet to do really well. And they'll take courses on how to do talking head videos, or they'll worry about their accent. I had a guy worrying about his accent. He was asking me how he could do it on YouTube. And he was like, my English is so bad and I have such a strong accent. And he was trying to like be different on camera than he was in real life. And I remember just saying something along the lines of, no, man, if you do this, you will always have to do this. Why would you start with your life on extra hard difficulty? Why not just do it regardless of whether or not you have an accent, and just trust that somewhere in the 4 billion human beings out there, that there will be an audience that likes that sort of thing, that can understand you, whether or not you have a harsh accent. He really didn't, if I'm honest. And yeah, use that ultimately to build your lifestyle in a way that's extremely frictionless and that allows you to record a lot more content a lot quicker and a lot higher quality. So those are the 3 or maybe the 4 points on how to convert that idea of building your lifestyle in a way that allows you to produce a lot of high quality content effortlessly into a series of actionable roadmaps. Obviously, get a nice light or something. I just bought this microphone, but I should say that I got to 10,000 subscribers without actually having a nice microphone. I just had a little lapel one, which honestly had pretty crappy audio quality. When you have the funds, upgrade your camera. Do that sort of thing, because people that are watching obviously do appreciate that you put time and energy into it. But just don't allow any of that stuff to stop you from producing your point of highest leverage, which most of the time is just the content. And it's you just talking about stuff that you like, or I don't know, maybe writing about stuff that you like, or whatever your content format on YouTube should be. Okay, so that's number one. Build your lifestyle in a way that allows you to produce a lot of high quality content quickly, effortlessly, and friction free. Number two is create a lot of high quality content. So that sort of falls with the first one. And that's not something that I can explain specifically how to do, because you just have to sit in front of your computer or sit in front of whatever your content medium is and just produce a lot of content. The way that I did this and the way that I pushed myself, I did do a little bit of pushing, not gonna lie, but the way that I did this was I set a 30-day challenge for myself. And I said, hey, every single day after you're done with your day's activities, just sit down in front of the camera and then talk about something that you want to talk about. Look through your past accomplishments and see if there's anything interesting that you might be able to provide that's valuable to other people. And if there is, then record a video on it and just talk for a while. I didn't worry about, doing any editing or anything. I just drag and drop those videos directly into YouTube. And I just did it every single day for 30 days, a little longer than 30 days. And by the end of the 30 days, I had learned so much. Because what you learn when you do this, as I mentioned earlier, you're just sort of trying to see what works, right? And then eventually from one of those directions that you've produced content on, one of those topics or whatever, there'll be slightly more positive feedback than on any of the previous topics. And so that to you is like a learning signal. It's like, hey, I need to go that way because I've already received some positive feedback that way. It's like if you're stuck in like a very dark cave and then you try and look around and you really can't see anything. But you notice that when you turn your head a little bit to the left, like it just seems a little bit lighter. So then you put your hands out and then you start walking that way down the cave. And then the closer that you go to that direction, the lighter and lighter it becomes. Well, odds are you're going, you're getting out of the cave. You're following this light source out, right? And just like in that analogy, you're following a light source to get out of the cave and presumably free yourself. When you follow feedback and when you follow the numbers, if you post a video about Zapier and it does really well, do more videos on Zapier. You can iterate towards a good niche for yourself without worrying too much about all of the silly BS that people do, where they do like market research and they spend like 1,000,001 hours trying to figure out, what's my target audience or my persona or whatever, right? The reality is you have no idea what your target audience is. And even if you think you have an idea, you're probably wrong. So just go produce a bunch of content in and around those topics. And then whatever reacts the strongest, that's where you go. You go where the data tells you, essentially. You go where the people that are watching you tell you. So that's number two, produce a ton of high quality content. And number three is engage with your audience. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I just talked about going through my comments for 45 minutes to an hour every day, and then writing out responses and recording videos and just trying to make it as effortless a part of my routine as possible. But obviously there are many ways to do so. You could set polls. You could do, on YouTube, I think I've created 1 or 2 posts, but that's just because I've never done this before. You could create regular posts in addition to the content that you're doing where you're asking viewers questions, you're attempting to learn things about them. You could set up office hours. So you could have some type of weekly office hour session where you just host a call and people that have questions can physically come on that call and you can answer them. You can help them out live. You could do tons of things. You could add a community offering to whatever you're doing, maybe a free community or very low paid community, to be able to interact with people that like you a lot and give them more time, energy, and care. But that's, in addition to the videos that you're making on YouTube. Essentially, you just need to find a way to engage with your audience and show them that you really care. You can't just be blasting your content into the void, because sure, you'll get some views and you'll get some respect, I want to say, but the leverage that you lose by not taking advantage of engaging with real human beings is crazy. You're probably losing on 3, 4, 5x the channel growth, not to mention the life benefits and the quality of life benefits of just having a wide network of people that like you and being able to provide value. Giving is probably the straightest line path to being happy that I've ever found. So yeah, my 3-step sequence, again, to reiterate: build a lifestyle that allows you to produce a lot of high quality content. Second is produce a lot of high quality content, learn from that content, and eventually identify your point of highest leverage. And then 3, engage with your audience a lot. And I think when you engage with your audience a lot, it just helps everything else. It's just a general lift to your content or branding strategy. Okay, great. those were two of the things. I think I'm getting a little tired here. Those were two of the three things that I wanted to talk about today. The last one is monetization, and how you take a channel that is doing pretty well at, maybe 10,000 subscribers, and how you scale it up. I'm firmly of the belief that, just seeing what I've seen now, anybody at 10,000 subscribers in a B2B niche can probably make over $1 million a year, assuming that they're just intelligent about how they monetize. If you hit 10,000 subscribers, you are, I think, in like the top, I think it's 8% of YouTube, something along those lines. In addition to being in the top 8% of YouTube, you've obviously proven that your ideas are worthwhile, that people like you, people like the content that you're putting out, the niche that you're in is hot and, reasonably successful. There are so many ways to convert all of those things into cold hard cash. And over the course of the next few minutes, I'm just going to talk about a few of those ways. Now, I should preface this with, I'm not actually doing any of these things. I found it very important to build my reputation first and foremost, and then also not to worry about optimizing my cash flow, but just to get in the habit of posting consistently and doing those three things that I talked about, because I don't really care about making money in the next 2 or 3 months. I care about making money in the next 10 or 15 years. I truly think that your personal brand is one of the most powerful ways that you can elevate your business success. Just like engaging with your audience, it's just a general lift to the rest of your life. Whether you're working on one specific business or multiple, you can always take excitement and energy and positive outcomes from one of those businesses, and then just take it into your personal brand and then apply it to another. It's just the best and clearest way to achieve freedom, I would say. So for me, it's not about acquiring a ton of money very quickly. But if you were to try and optimize every little aspect about, your YouTube persona or something like that, there are a couple ways to get there. And these are the ways that have been presented to me, essentially, at this point in a B2B niche. So the first thing that you could do is you could start a community of some kind. And so many of you that follow me will know that I've mentioned this community on probably the first 3 or 4 videos that I posted quite a while ago. But this one is called Agency Scalers. It's a school.com community. And essentially, it's just a free community that allows people that are growing their agencies to interact with each other, share their social medias, talk about, things that they're struggling with and that sort of deal, and ultimately get help from people as well. This is great, but a ton of these communities will eventually transition to some type of paid offering as well. So in addition to having, a free community, you'll also have a community for maybe $15 or $20 or $30 a month. At around 10,000 subscribers, assuming that you're doing it right, you probably have somewhere between 1,000 to maybe 1,500 people that will purchase something that you put out that's less than $20 or $30 a month, I want to say. And so if you do the math on that, if you have 1,500 people that respect, and they really value what you're putting out, and you charge them all $30 a month for access to some community or something like that, 1,500 times 30 is 45,000, I believe, right? Yeah, 45,000, which is already extremely valuable. And obviously there's a ton of alpha there that, that people can. So assuming you have 10,000 subscribers, if you're looking at, I don't know, I think at that level, you're probably realistically going to have between 500 to 1,000 people that will purchase anything that you put out that is less than $30. So, if we're doing $30 and we're saying 1,000 people, if 1,000 people sign up for your community at $30 a month, then you're making $30,000 a month, number one. And two, you also have a direct channel to people that have already expressed interest in wanting to purchase something from you. And so you have a lot of upsell potential. So you can upsell them on, I don't know. There are a lot of people that ask me for one-on-one coaching, for instance. They say, Nick, is there any way we can get on a call consistently weekly, or can we do some type of make tutoring or something along those lines? Some people are willing to pay quite a lot of money, and they're willing to throw a fair number of Benjamins at me for that sort of thing. I don't personally accept that because it's not very scalable, and my time is pretty limited enough as is. But you can imagine how if you had a community of people that, obviously followed you, they liked you, they respected you, and you were delivering a ton of value to, it would be a pretty short line path from there to having some very high paid coaching or consulting or mentorship offer, where people, instead of paying $20 or $30 a month, are now paying several $1,000s a month to potentially be in some type of group with you and maybe talk to you once or twice a week. So that in and of itself is already probably halfway to about $1 million a year. I think if you were to take advantage of sponsorships and affiliate offers and stuff like that, you could probably make up that other half. Now, I haven't talked about sponsorships that much, but essentially, I want to say once you reach the 1,000 to 2,000 subscriber mark, a lot of people will start reaching out to you saying stuff along the lines of, hey, we run a software platform that is X, Y, and Z. We feel like your audience would really, really be interested in this sort of thing. Would you be amenable? And if so, could you send me over your price sheet? And so when you are like an influencer or something like that, influencer marketing is when people will pay you to advertise their products for them. I haven't done any of this because I personally feel that that cheapens the value of what I'm talking about substantially. And I would only ever do this if I had a product that I was planning on talking about that day anyway. And then somebody said, hey, do you also want $500 in order, in addition to what you were going to talk about anyway? And I would be like, well, do I have to change anything about what I was going to say? They'd be like, no. I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm going to take the free money. Why the hell not? So you can make a lot of money with the sponsorship stuff. If you think about it, if you're doing, one video, let's just say one video every 3 days. So what's that? 10 videos a month. And then every month, you have every video you do one sponsorship, and that's $1,000, which people are willing to pay once you're at about the 10,000 subscriber level, especially people with micro niche style products that cater specifically to your audience. You can make an additional $10,000 just with sponsorships that month. If you push your affiliates really hard, if you negotiate better affiliate rates with the vendors that you are working with. So if you guys notice in my videos, if you scroll down a little bit right now, you'll see that there are a bunch of affiliate links like Rise and SiteGround and that sort of thing. These are all just the standard affiliate links. I don't have any like special secret bonuses or anything. These are just affiliate links that they give out to people that are influencers that have audiences, and that, they want to incentivize people to sign up with the influencer's link because a lot of the time there's a discount or some incentive or whatever. But if you have like a reasonably active, engaged following, you can actually just reach out directly to these affiliate companies or companies with affiliate programs. You could say, hey, listen, I know that you normally offer 5%, but I want to record videos specifically about your product. I'm going to send you a ton of leads, and as a result, I want 20% or something. And these companies are in the business of making money just like anybody else. If you send them an offer of basically giving them 80% of a bunch of free money, most of them are going to say yes, or you'll be able to negotiate with them for at least a substantially higher affiliate rate than you'd get normally, which is quite nice. So you can do some of that, obviously. You can also optimize your content for better AdSense revenue and that sort of deal. I haven't really been doing any of that either. I'm just talking to the camera, and I'm really enjoying myself. And again, I'm trying to make this a post every single day for as long as humanly possible sort of affair, rather than a, let's make as much money as I can in the next 3 months sort of deal. But you can optimize your content substantially by increasing, I don't know if you can increase the ad roles that are placed, but you can like select where the ads are. You could talk about specific software products with higher CPMs or RPMs or whatever they're called. You have a lot of options to basically make these minor optimizations here or there. And then, you can also get into, obviously the service side of things. I mentioned how I was offering done for you services. I was offering a bunch of systems. I'm offering like operations consulting and that sort of deal. So this is what I was doing before I even started YouTube. And so I figured that it was just a logical extension to have like a little calendar booking link and be like, hey, do you want me to build you a system? If so, book a call with me below. And so as a result of that, I've made a fair amount of money, and I've done it quite quickly. But you can imagine if you combine that with some type of community offer and potentially some type of mentorship offer or something like that, your combined revenues can very quickly approach the 80K a month, which would be sufficient to hit you about $1 million a year. And it would be a fair amount of work, don't get me wrong. But, I think for the margin, for like the operational complexity of managing something like that in comparison to managing like a whole agency from the ground up, I think it's a pretty good deal. So yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing, I would say, right around my level. And that's something that you would be able to do probably even before you get to the 10,000 subscribers, maybe even like 7 or 8,000 or something. So if that sounds like something you want to do, you can just have 10,000 be your North Star. And then as you work closer towards it, you can worry about monetizing and all that stuff afterwards. But just know that, there are a lot of people that are leaving a lot of money on the table, myself included. And it's really just what you want out of YouTube and what you want out of life. Okay, great. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I realize that this is a mouthful, and this is probably a lot more boring than my other videos because you just listen to me talk nonstop without producing a system or anything like that. So hopefully you found this valuable. If you guys have any questions about my specific channel or maybe anything that I said during the video, just drop them down below as a comment. I made this video specifically because tons of people have asked me, hey, Nick, can you do a video on YouTube? Hey, Nick, can you talk about your YouTube growth? Hey, can you talk about why you grew so much faster than everybody else? So if you guys have any other requests for videos that are similar, or I don't know, tangentially related to growth online or branding or anything like that, yeah, just leave a comment down, and then I'll attend to it if it makes sense for me to do so, and when I can. Otherwise, please like the video, please subscribe. I really appreciate everybody that's been following me up until now, and I'm looking forward to producing that next one. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.